The first time I saw him, my body reacted before my mind did. It was a Tuesday evening, the kind where the air outside was thick with heat, but inside the gym, the air conditioning made everything feel crisp and charged. I had just signed up for a membership, hoping to shed some of the weight I'd gained over the years, but deep down, I knew it wasn't just about that. I needed something. Something more than the routine of my marriage, the lifeless conversations over dinner, the way Mark, my husband, barely looked up from his phone anymore. I needed to feel alive again. And then I saw him. Daniel. He wasn't like the other trainers. Where they were friendly, he was intense. Focused. His dark eyes scanned the room like he owned it, his strong, tanned arms crossing over his broad chest. He had that rugged, confident energy, the kind of man who knew what he wanted and how to get it. I felt his gaze settle on me as I stood awkwardly near the dumbbells, unsure of what to do. And then, just like that, he was walking toward me. "You must be Lisa," he said, his voice deep and smooth. "I'll be your trainer today." He smiled, and my stomach did something it hadn't done in years. It flipped. That first session was professional, mostly. Daniel watched me closely, adjusting my posture, correcting my movements. His hands were firm, his touch lingering just a little longer than necessary. When he placed his hand on my waist to help me with a squat, a shiver ran down my spine. "You're tense," he murmured, standing close behind me. I laughed nervously. "I guess I'm just not used to this." His lips curved into a knowing smirk. "Don't worry. You will be." For the next hour, I couldn't stop thinking about the way his hands had felt on me. How his voice had sounded when he said my name. I left the gym that night feeling breathless, but not from the workout. When I got home, Mark was already on the couch, watching TV, barely acknowledging me. "How was the gym?" he asked without looking away from the screen. I hesitated. "Do you really want to know?" "Good," I said simply, walking past him, my heart still racing. I told myself it was just a harmless crush, that I was simply enjoying the attention. But as the days passed, I found myself dressing differently for the gym, tighter leggings, a little makeup, perfume that wasn't overpowering but noticeable. And every time I walked in, Daniel noticed. "You look good today," he'd say casually, but his eyes would tell a different story. And I craved it. The way he saw me. The way he made me feel wanted. Then, one evening, after the gym had mostly emptied out, he offered me a private session. "Just you and me," he said, his voice lower than usual. "I think we can push you a little harder." I knew what he meant. And I said yes. Like and subscribe if you've ever found yourself drawn to someone you shouldn't have. This story is just beginning. I told myself it wouldn't happen. I repeated it in my head like a chant as I walked into the gym that night, my heart pounding harder than any workout I'd ever done. It was just a private session. Just me and Daniel. Nothing more. But deep down, I knew that was a lie. The gym was nearly empty when I arrived. The usual crowd had cleared out, leaving only the hum of the treadmills and the faint sound of weights clanking in the distance. Daniel was waiting near the training mats, his muscular arms crossed, his dark eyes locked on me like he had already won a game I didn't even realize I was playing. "You ready?" he asked, his voice smooth, teasing. I swallowed hard. "Yeah." He smirked, like he could hear the hesitation in my voice. "Good. Let's get started." The workout started like any other, squats, lunges, stretches. But everything felt heavier, charged with something unspoken. His hands lingered longer when he corrected my form. His breath was closer when he spoke. Then came the stretches. "Lay down," he instructed, nodding toward the mat. I obeyed, trying to steady my breathing. He knelt beside me, one knee on the mat, the other bent, his body towering over mine. "We need to loosen up your legs," he said, his voice lower than usual. He took my right leg in his hands, pushing it gently toward my chest. The stretch burned, but that wasn't what made me tremble. It was the way his fingers traced my calf, his touch deliberate, slow. "You're tight," he murmured. I let out a shaky breath. I guess so." He leaned in, his face just inches from mine. I could smell the faint scent of his cologne, feel the warmth of his skin. "Lisa," His voice was barely a whisper. I should have stopped him. I should have gotten up, laughed it off, walked away. But I didn't. Instead, I tilted my head just slightly, just enough to let him know. And then his lips were on mine. The kiss was slow at first, tentative, like he was testing me, waiting for me to pull away. But I didn't. I couldn't. Instead, I reached up, my fingers gripping the back of his neck, pulling him closer. His hands roamed over my body, sliding under my tank top, exploring, claiming. The world outside the gym disappeared. My marriage, my husband, the life I had before this moment, none of it existed anymore. There was only Daniel. His hands, his mouth, his body pressing against mine, hard and desperate. We didn't stop. Not even when the thought of Mark flashed in my mind. Not even when the rational part of me screamed that this was wrong. It was too late. When it was over, I lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, my heart hammering in my chest. Daniel sat beside me, running a hand through his dark hair, his breath still uneven. Well, he finally said, smirking. That was unexpected. I let out a breathless laugh. Was it? He turned to me, his eyes dark, hungry. No, he admitted. Not at all. Guilt should have hit me right then. But it didn't. Not yet. Instead, all I felt was a rush of something I hadn't felt in years, something wild and dangerous and alive. By the time I got home, my heart had slowed, but my mind was racing. Mark was still awake, sitting in bed with his laptop, his glasses perched on his nose. He barely looked up when I walked in. Good workout, he asked, his voice distracted. I hesitated, the weight of what I had done pressing down on me. I could still feel Daniel on my skin, taste him on my lips. And yet, as I climbed into bed beside my husband, a small, dangerous smile played at the corners of my mouth. Yeah, I said softly. It was intense. Secrets always have a way of coming out. Subscribe for more scandalous twists. I should have felt guilty. I should have tossed and turned that night, haunted by what I had done. But as I lay beside Mark, listening to the steady rhythm of his breathing, all I felt was alive. My skin still tingled from Daniel's touch, my body humming with the memory of his hands, his mouth, the way he had made me feel things I had forgotten were possible. The next morning, I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror. Something had changed. My eyes were brighter. My lips, fuller. There was color in my cheeks, a glow I hadn't seen in years. Mark noticed it too, just not in the way he should have. You seem happy, he said over breakfast, barely looking up from his phone. I shrugged, stirring my coffee. The gym has been good for me. He nodded absent-mindedly, then went back to scrolling. If only he knew. For the next few weeks, I became an expert in deception. I told Mark I was staying late at the gym, pushing myself harder. He was too preoccupied with work, with life, to question it. And so, I slipped further into Daniel's world. We were reckless. Meeting in the back of the gym after hours, sneaking into his car, renting hotel rooms when we couldn't keep our hands off each other. Every touch, every stolen kiss, made me crave him more. But it wasn't just physical. With Daniel, I felt seen, desired, wanted. He looked at me like I was the only woman in the world, something Mark hadn't done in years. You're different with me, Daniel said one night, tracing a finger along my collarbone as we lay tangled in the sheets of some nameless hotel. I turned to him, my heart pounding. How? His lips curled into that knowing smirk. You're you. Not someone's wife. Not someone's responsibility. Just you. And I loved that. I loved being Lisa, not Mark's wife, not the woman waiting for her husband's attention. Just me. But double lives don't stay hidden forever. One evening, after a particularly heated session with Daniel, I walked into my house, still dizzy from the scent of his skin, the taste of his mouth. I was so lost in my thoughts that I didn't hear Mark calling my name. Lisa. I jumped, spinning to face him. He was standing in the hallway, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. My heart slammed against my ribs. Did he know? What? I asked, keeping my voice steady. He nodded toward my gym bag. You left your phone here. I froze. He held it out to me, and I grabbed it quickly, my fingers shaking. The screen was dark. Locked. Safe. For now. You okay? Mark asked, eyeing me suspiciously. I forced a smile. Yeah. Just tired. He hesitated for a second longer before nodding. Go shower. You smell like the gym. I turned away quickly, biting my lip to keep from laughing. If only he knew what I really smelled like. The thrill of secrecy made the affair even more intoxicating. I lived for those stolen moments, the rush of Daniel's touch, the danger of almost getting caught. But deep down, I knew it couldn't last. Secrets have a way of surfacing. And mine was about to explode. Like and subscribe, because the biggest twist is coming next. I had been playing with fire, and deep down, I knew it was only a matter of time before I got burned. For weeks, I had lived in a dangerous fantasy, one where I could be both Mark's wife and Daniel's lover, balancing on a knife's edge between guilt and pleasure. But secrets don't stay buried forever. And mine was about to come crashing down. It started with a text. Not just any text. The text. The one that would destroy everything. It was a Wednesday evening, and I was rushing home after another heated session with Daniel. My skin still tingled from his touch, my body humming with the aftermath. As I drove, I reached for my phone to send him a quick message. I can't stop thinking about you. I need more. I hit send, my fingers still trembling from the rush. Then I saw it. I had sent it to Mark. Panic hit me like a tidal wave. My hands clenched the steering wheel as my mind raced for a way out. A lie, an excuse, anything to undo what I had just done. But it was too late. By the time I pulled into the driveway, Mark was waiting. The front door was wide open, the glow of the porch light casting harsh shadows over his face. He was holding his phone, his knuckles white. Who is he? His voice was calm, too calm. I swallowed hard, stepping out of the car. Mark, don't. He held up the phone. Don't lie to me. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. What could I say? That it was a joke? A mistake? He had already seen the truth. His jaw tightened, his breath unsteady. How long? The silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. Finally, I spoke, my voice barely a whisper. A few months. He exhaled sharply, like I had punched him in the gut. Jesus, Lisa. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing. Was it worth it? I didn't answer. Because the truth was, I didn't know. Mark didn't yell. He didn't throw anything. He just looked at me with an emptiness that cut deeper than any screaming ever could. I don't even know who you are anymore, he said finally. And maybe I didn't either. That night, I packed a bag. Not because he told me to leave. He didn't have to. I knew things would never be the same. As I drove away, my phone buzzed. Daniel. I stared at his name on the screen, my heart pounding. I thought about answering. About running to him, losing myself in his touch, pretending for just a little longer that this wasn't my reality. But I didn't. Instead, I turned the phone off and kept driving. Because some mistakes can't be undone. Like and subscribe, because every choice has a consequence. And some are impossible to escape.